Sharon Toerek is principal of Toerek Law, where she focuses her national law practice on helping professionals in the advertising, marketing, and creative services industries protect and monetize their intellectual capital and manage the legal implications of their marketing and advertising work. Sharon provides proactive, strategic counsel to communications, marketing, advertising, and creative agencies on legal and business issues they face continually in their work, including agency-client relationships, including agency service contracts, agency freelancer relationship management, trademark and brand protection matters, social media and content marketing legal compliance, copyright protection, licensing and transfer of creative content, and advertising law. Sharon is an approved participant on the 4A's Legal Consultants Panel and a past president of the American Ad Federation of Cleveland. Sharon is the publisher of the marketing industry legal blog Legal Plus Creative. Sharon created the Legal Plus Creative Agency Protection System, a comprehensive legal education resource and toolkit for marketing, ad, and creative services agencies. She is also the creator and host of The Innovative Agency, a podcast about innovation and trends in the marketing agency world. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. Sharon, tell us about your career and how you got into it in the first place.
Well, so I'm a trained intellectual property lawyer, and that means that I had a lot of training in my early days as an attorney, learning how to protect people's brands and learning how to protect people's creative work. And it just kind of migrated, Nancy, over the years into working with a lot of marketing branding people, and started to get a lot more clients in those spaces, and I really enjoyed the work. I am a huge fan of marketing and advertising, as it turns out, and I didn't discover this until midway in my career, but it really blends a lot of things I love all in one place. It's popular culture, it's art, it's business, and so it's a great group of clients to work with. And these days, our firm primarily focuses on collaborating with marketing agencies or marketing service providers.
Well, I must say that as one of your clients, I can attest to the fact that you get us.
Well, thank you. It's fun to work with a client base of people who are dynamic and always trying new ideas and always throwing new challenges your way. So thanks. And you and your team are always delightful to work with because you've always got some new, engaging, interesting idea planned. And so it's fun to kind of walk that walk with you and our other clients as well. So thanks for saying that. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sharon. Yeah. And one thing about us creative kind of people is like when it comes to technicalities, and I'm going to ask you now about the difference between a copyright and a trademark. And when I even say that stuff out loud, my brain goes into blah, 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 blah. So can you explain the difference between a copyright and a trademark?
Yeah, absolutely. So think of a trademark as the legal protection for your brand. Trademark protects anything that identifies the origin of a product or a service. So it can be a name, a word, a logo, a combination of any of those things. There's lots of other things that can serve as trademarks as well. Think of things like the NBC chimes. Think of things like the shape of the Coca-Cola bottle. Anything that is a sort of a source or a source indicator, a brand indicator. So trademarks protect brands. Copyright is really a set of legal rights that protect creative work. So those are the types of rights that limit somebody's ability to sell work, copy work, use work in other works. And so you can see how that would have natural applications every day in marketing work, because people are always drawing inspiration from other people's work and ideas and things like that. So yeah, think of trademark as brand protection. Think of copyright as a set of rights that actually protects the creative assets.
Well, thank you. That's a very clear explanation. I do get that. And as you know, I do own trademarks for both the PR Maven and the Marshall Plan. And when I created them, I didn't know that there was going to be ongoing work to protect those trademarks. So how much work is required to protect your trademark, and why is that important?
Well, it's important because the job of protecting a trademark really begins before you adopt it, right? It's doing careful research and clearance work to make sure that the brand you want to use is available and isn't going to cause conflict, and it's going to be something that is going to be have legs, right? It's going to work with your product portfolio or your service portfolio for a long time to come. So then there's the actual protection process where you adopt your brand and you achieve trademark registration, perhaps, which I always recommend that whenever you've got a basis for it, you actually secure a federal trademark registration for your brand. But then you're right, the work doesn't really stop there. You've got to continually be vigilant and do some regular check-ins. And I recommend as a rule of thumb, twice a year, once a year minimum. Take a look out there. And it's a lot easier to do this these days than when, in my earlier days doing trademark work. But all the internet search engines out there make it a lot easier to find the information you're looking for. You run some searches. You see what else is out there. You check and see whether any uses out there might confuse a buying consumer about whether a product came from you or a competitor. So you're right. It doesn't end in terms of monitoring the use. And there are some modest maintenance activities you have to do, with the government, with the trademark office to keep your registration current every 5 to 10 years after you get your registration. So it isn't overwhelming, but it isn't a one and done thing. You're right. And the reason it's important to keep up with those things is because if you know about and blow off, that's not the technical legal term, if you know about and fail to take action on a potential infringement once or twice, that can cause you some difficulty if the third time you see something you really want to take action on. You didn't do anything the first couple of times you noticed a problem with your brand. And so you have to demonstrate a trend of sort of monitoring and enforcing your trademark once you have one. And those are also the things that keep your brand valuable from a financial perspective. Not only are they necessary from a legal point of view, but they're necessary to keep the equity building in your brand. And I think you're selling yourself short a little bit earlier, Nancy, there, because I think you probably more than a lot of marketers have understood how to take a brand and wrap a trademark around it to protect it in order to expand the value of the portfolio that you've built as a business owner. And it's a good example for any business owner, any service provider who maybe doesn't think trademarks are as important from a financial point of view. If you have them and you protect them, they can definitely positively impact the financial value of your business.
Well, I know from experience, for example, there was an agency in California that had the PR Mavens as its name, and I did have to reach out to them and let them know that I own the trademark on that. And it's a little awkward, because I know how much goes into coming up with a name and then developing the logo and the branding, and it didn't feel nice to do that.
I know it is. It can feel icky. It can feel icky, and nobody likes confrontation. But there are ways to do it that are a little bit better received, I should say. Because a lot of times these conflicts that arise are unintentional, right? It's somebody who didn't know about the prior user because they didn't do their research, perhaps. We've had situations where our clients have done everything right and just didn't detect this other user in another part of the world or another part of the country, and so it's all a matter of how you manage the conversation. And nobody enjoys conflict, at least most people don't. And so I can totally understand, how it would feel from your perspective having to make that reach out. But it's an important part of protecting the value of your investment and your brand. And so you gritted your teeth and you did it, and I'm glad you did. And it's an example for other business owners of how to take it seriously without escalating it unnecessarily.
Yeah, I think it is a good lesson for anybody, again, a creative person who might be professionally advising clients on naming and, the importance of doing that research before you establish a name. And another thing is to be sure that the URL for a certain name is available too, because you're going to want to get a web address. And that leads to another issue that I've had is, I have the trademark on the PR Maven, but I did not get the Twitter handle PR Maven, and somebody else has it. So if you own a trademark, does that mean that you own the trademark on the Twitter handle?
Well, I will tell you that is minimum table stakes for getting any assistance from Instagram or any other social media platform, for getting their assistance and securing the name, and because you're the trademark holder. A minimum table stakes would be a federal trademark registration. That is certainly table stakes for getting the URL if you are a federal trademark owner and if somebody's using it in a way that could cause confusion. But I'll also tell you that it is possible sometimes for people in non-competing industries to use the same or very similar sounding brands and for it not to be trademark infringement, because trademarks are category specific, right? It's you own a trademark only to identify a specific class of products or services. And so, the typical lawyer answer is it depends. And so I won't lead with that, but I will say there's a number of factors that are taken into consideration when you see somebody else out there on a social media platform using a handle that looks and feels like your trademark. And the minimum step is if you don't have a federal trademark secured, the platforms themselves are not going to give you any love in terms of trying to get that problem resolved.
Right, exactly. Well, It is a murky area, and it does require counsel. I've been appreciative to have counsel.
Well, thanks. I mean, start early. Start early and make it. Build it into your process, just like you'd build in protecting any of your other assets in the business, and keeping your other legal processes up to date. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming if you take a few necessary steps on an ongoing basis.
Right. Well, I mean, if you think of a brand I always think of Nike and their tagline, "Just do it," and how valuable that. And I assume that Nike is just sort of a made-up word, but they have imbued it with so much meaning, and they have invested so much marketing, advertising, branding, and strategy into that brand. So if somebody else decided to call themselves Nike, obviously they would be in trouble, and rightly so. So it's not just a name. It's much more than that when a brand goes global.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is a good example of a situation where a brand can sometimes surpass even the value of any of the other industries that a company engages in. Nike's a great example. Apple's a terrific example, where the brand has such clear standards that consumers will automatically default to it before they will look at a competitor's brand, and they will automatically consider the products of that brand to be of a certain level of excellence. So that's an example where the brand means as much as the quality of the merchandise or the services that are offered. So it is art and science. It really is. And there is a lot more that goes into it than I think the average consumer really thinks about on a day-to-day basis.
Well, it's interesting you say that because, as you know, we have the Marshall Plan, which is a strategic strategy, or it is a strategic plan for developing a brand, and that is one of the things that we put a lot of thought into in creating the brand story, and the ways to communicate that brand story with targeted audiences. So we don't own the copyright on plan for reconstructing Europe after World War II, which is what the original Marshall Plan was about.
No, but if you had been around at the time, I'm sure you would have come up with something really great, too.
Yeah. I'm old, but not that old, Sharon.
I said, if you'd been around at the time, but I know you're not that old.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be back with more from Sharon Toerek. First, I want to tell you about my new book, Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand, available on Amazon.com now as a paperback or a Kindle edition. And this book is all about growing the network of raving fans in order to grow your brand so you can become a worldwide brand like Nike, for example, or the Marshall Plan. And soon you'll be able to purchase the Audible edition as well, which I recorded a few weeks ago, and that's on its way. So if you'd like to receive a free Kindle version, go to prmaven.com/giveaway. And we'll be back with more from Sharon Toerek, principal at Toerek Law, in just a moment.
Do you want to grow your client or customer base? Perhaps increase brand awareness? Maybe tell your unique story more effectively? Of course you do. But you may be worried that you don't have enough expertise to make that happen. Well, no worries, PR Maven Nation. Let the PR Maven herself, Nancy Marshall, show you how easy it is to get your message across effectively using a powerful yet simple tool, a message map. Nancy's training is often called informative and constructive, well-designed and impactful, with a perfect blend of theory and real-life experience. You will leverage Nancy's expertise to create your own message map when you register for this comprehensive online video training course, which is broken down into 4 easy-to-understand modules. Normally, this course is priced at $147, but for listeners of the PR Maven podcast, that's you, PR Maven Nation, it's only $29 when you enter the code word podcast during enrollment. It even includes a workbook and bonus content to guide you through the process. So go to prmaven.com and click on the Message Map Mastery course to enroll today. Remember, enter the word podcast during enrollment for a special discounted price of $29.
Welcome back. And today we're talking with Sharon Toerek, principal at Toerek Law. And I want to dive right back in with more questions. Sharon, you told me in one of our pre-interview chats that you were really into creating strategy. And I, too, love strategy. I love the process of working with a client on strategy. To me, it's kind of like playing school, which is something I used to love to do as a kid.
Me too.
You did? You liked to play school? Were you usually the teacher? I always was.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How else do you get to boss people around when you're a kid unless you're the teacher?
I used to love all the supplies. I still love office supplies. It's a little bit of a compulsion. Staples is not a good place for me to go because I just can't hold back.
Oh, well, and now that you can, I know. Oh, yeah, we could spend a long time talking about that. I'll let you know in a little hint. There's another major real retailer out there that, I don't know, rhymes with Marget that has an awesome office supplies aisle too. Everything's
Oh,
really pretty and looks great on your desk. Yeah, they're
I'll
not a
have to
sponsor,
check
but
that
they're really
out.
great
So
office supplies.
So getting back to business, Sharon. So what is the difference between strategy and tactics? Because a lot of people confuse the two.
Yeah, well, I see the difference this way. Strategy is, what is your plan for achieving, first of all, what's your goal? And second of all, what is your plan or your roadmap for getting there? That is strategy. That is, I want to be here in my business in 5 years, or I want to be there in 2 years with my professional reputation and my reach. And these are sort of the pillars of how I plan to get there. And then the tactics are all of the day-to-day, schedulable, plannable things that support you achieving whatever strategic objectives that you've set forward. So I know you and I had a conversation about this, and I mentioned to you that I really have come to enjoy, as I've grown my firm and I'm in a different position with clients these days than I might have been, a few years ago. What I really enjoy most is having that initial strategic conversation with the client when I am learning about what is the problem that they need to solve, because sometimes they've contacted us because there's a problem that they need solving, which is no surprise since we're a law firm. Or what is the opportunity that they're trying to take advantage of, and what would be a desirable result for them as a result of taking advantage of that opportunity. I love those conversations. I have come to love that part of the work personally more than the day-to-day execution of those strategies, which might be what's the necessary contract, correspondence, legal process that's going to help them get from A to B, right? So I really enjoy those strategic deep dives. And we started doing a lot more what I'll call, I've stolen a phrase, honestly, from you and your peers in the agency world of discovery. We're doing a lot more audit or discovery engagements with clients where we are, assessing a problem or an opportunity with them and really creating a plan of attack. And that's sort of the first step. Whereas, though, probably earlier in the history of my firm, we probably would have just dived in and started making the sausage. Now we are really taking a pause back, and it's a two-part engagement. Initially, we're doing the assessment or the discovery, and then we're getting to work with the tactics. Do you find that's a similar way that you approach?
Oh, totally. I mean, back in the day, we would have just jumped right in and started writing press releases and contacted the media. And now we do a whole lot of work up front to figure out what are the unique story angles and what are the messages that ultimately we want to communicate. So that involves some digging and some discovery, as you said. So I too love that aspect. And, I think there's a lot more value in that to the client than just diving right in, because actually if you just dive right in, you can go in the wrong direction, and that strategically can be disastrous.
Well, right. Not only that, but it's ultimately going to cost more time and money. And I don't know about you, but I have noticed on the part of clients over this last 6 months or so, as you and I are talking, it's early September in 2020. And so we're in month 6 of, adjusting to life with a pandemic around. And I have found that since our client base has been more interested in figuring out passive ways to earn money or additional ways to create revenue streams for their business, they are a lot more open to strategy conversations. And in our world, that is converted into IP conversations because marketing agencies don't always value their intellectual property very highly. They tend to be so focused on what they're creating for their clients that they don't take that breath. You're a rare exception to this, Nancy, but they don't always take that breath and step back and think about what they've created in their own four walls to protect and make money from. Anyway, so I've seen more interest in that in the last 6 months or so. And that has enabled us to have tons more strategic conversations than I think I've noticed in any prior 6-month period since our firm's been around. So I'm just enjoying it greatly. And I think the possibilities are exciting really for any business, but especially for those professional service businesses out there who might be listening to this.
Well, you use the term making the sausage. And actually, there are so many ways to find people online now. Fiverr.com is one example where you can find creative professionals that will do cheap work, and oftentimes overnight, they'll produce pretty good work and do it fast and cheap, and you can get all three. But it doesn't really have any strategy. So I feel that those of us who know how to do the strategy need to protect the value of that and also reinforce with clients, as we're educating clients, the value of having a strategic plan. And another thing that I talk about with clients too is that if you have a strategic plan, then you can have junior people in-house implementing it, whereas if you need somebody strategic in-house, you probably are going to have a more senior level person who will cost more. So I always hope that I know that several times we have done Marshall plans with clients who have then hired in-house people at a junior level to implement it, and that has worked well. And we've actually coached and mentored that in-house person.
Well, more of your margin is going to be in that strategic recommendation that you make. I mean, if you can, create strategies and hand them off to other teams who can do the production, which is your lower margin work, and move on to the next higher margin activity for your agency or your business, you're more profitable for sure. And so, and for agencies who still like the production part, or, for professional service firms who still like the day-to-day, you can do that if you want to, but this certainly enables you to afford being a lot more selective about it, about when you're going to do that and when you're just going to be a strategic partner. It also gets you more into other areas of the business of your client than you might otherwise be, and helps you really connect at a higher level with the leadership teams of your clients, because you get to really dig into what are your goals for the business overall, not just what do you want a campaign to do, or, what's the specific event you want to capitalize on, but what are your goals for the business? And that opens up lots more doors and opportunities to collaborate with your clients on things. And so it makes the work really interesting.
Well, and another way to add value to your business is by choosing a vertical. And you have chosen the vertical of advertising and marketing and PR agencies. And so why did you choose that vertical? And what is the advantage of focusing on one vertical?
Well, I think focusing on one vertical, it makes you better at your craft because you are able to see patterns a lot more quickly because you've seen more clients present with the same or similar issues, challenges, opportunities, or fact patterns. So it makes you better at your work, and it makes you more efficient at your work. And that's one thing. The other thing is it makes the work more interesting because once you recognize that your what the patterns are, you can be a lot more creative about developing potential solutions, and you're more prompt and efficient in helping your clients execute them. So I think that's another advantage. And then I would say third of all, and I find this to be true in my personal case, and I'm a strong believer in blue ocean strategy. I don't know if you've read that book, Nancy, or not, but it basically is the concept of fishing where there's not a lot of other fish. And so if you can pick a vertical or a combination of a vertical and something that you're really excellent at, you have no competition, and therefore you can command better fees. You can take on more interesting work, and you don't need as many clients to do well as a business. So I'm a strong believer. I think those are the two core beliefs I have about the way we're trying to grow my firm, is that monetizing your intellectual capital whenever you can is always a smart thing to do, because it can add additional revenue streams to your business that can be more passive. And then secondly, if you can own a position in the ground, a vertical that enables you to play where other people are not playing, and enables you to really deeply understand a particular kind of client, your revenue potential becomes higher. So I could talk for hours about this, but those are basically the kind of the pillars of my beliefs there. And it's certainly, it proves true to me because everything I've just said has come true in one way, shape, or form. And there's so much more we can do, because we haven't even, scratched the surface of the particular vertical that we work in. But I think other business owners can find that too if they find the right one.
Well, you've done such a great job of forming a relationship with Drew McClellan and Agency Management Institute, and being so helpful and providing really helpful content to all of us who are members of the Agency Management Institute, which is a national network of advertising, marketing, and PR agencies. And you've been right there at all of our gatherings and always serving up really helpful content. So I think that partnership that you've established with Drew and AMI has been really instrumental, because, I mean, in my mind, you are like the go-to agency lawyer.
Well, I appreciate that. That's really kind of you to say. And I can't say enough great things about Drew and his organization. And what I would say generally to anybody listening is that find other people who serve the audience that you serve, but do different things for them, because you need what they can provide for your clients, and they need what you can provide for theirs. And so it is a genuine, we have grown to have a friendship, but that was a pleasant side effect of the fact that we both respect each other's work, and we don't have to hunt for the resource if I know a client needs his resources, I don't have to hunt for them, and vice versa. I think he would say the same thing. And so, look for other consultants, other professional service vendors, whomever that serves the same audience that you serve, because they are great learning opportunities for you, and also great potential business resources for you as well. That's certainly been the case for us. I can't say enough great things about his organization, and I love spending time with all you guys. It is a fun audience to serve. I'm not going to lie. It is. They're a fun group of people.
Yeah. Well, I got involved in 1999. Actually, I was one of the youngest members of my network at the time, and I think now I'm one of the oldest. And it's just been such a big part of my career and my life. And the people that are in my network are some of my best friends in the world, and we only see each other twice a year. And actually, because of COVID, we had to skip our last meeting, and we're skipping our upcoming meeting, just going online. But just the support that I get from Drew and the other members of my network is just priceless. It's invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody needs that community behind them, right? I mean,
Definitely.
people who see the same things that you see in their businesses and who have the same experiences or similar ones that you're having. Everybody needs that in their personal and their professional lives, in my opinion.
That's right. Absolutely. I agree. And of course, in our business, there's very little difference between our personal and professional lives. It's all kind of one thing.
Yeah, the lines have blurred a lot between your personal and your professional life in general, I think, if you're an entrepreneur, but even more so over this last 6 months, where the lines between your personal and your home life, your home life and your business life have blurred since we've, all been, forced to be remote workers in one way, shape, or form. And so, it makes it more challenging to balance or integrate both sides of your world with one another, because it's harder to turn it off. I don't know if you found this, but when you're working at home, it is harder to turn it off at the end of the day because you don't have that natural break between physical office and otherwise. And we're a virtual firm, so I'm the only one who has a very small office presence here in my hometown. But I have noticed a difference, and I have noticed that the work days are longer since the pandemic because I'm doing everything in one place. I'm living where I work and vice versa.
Yeah, well, I always say I'm glad I love what I do because I think about it all the time. I have a very hard time shutting my brain off, but I have used the app called Calm to try to turn my mind off and just focus on my breathing. I have found that that's been really helpful. That's a downloadable app that I have on my iPhone.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to try that because you're not the first person to mention that to me.
Yeah, it's
I will
really
definitely
good.
Look into that.
And then I want to thank you for recommending this book, Blue Ocean Strategies. I will definitely check that book out because that sounds like that would be really helpful as we're planning our Marshall Plan process.
Yeah, it's been around for a while, and it's not new by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it gets swept aside, with a lot of the new business philosophies that come out and are trendy. But yeah, I would recommend it because it definitely demonstrates the value of playing where others are not, so that you stand out.
Nice.
So yeah, definitely check it out. All right.
Well, Sharon, this has been a really great conversation, and I think we're going to have you back because there's so much more we can delve into, including content marketing. I want to talk with you more about that another time, but I want to thank you for being here with me today and joining PR Maven Nation in the PR Maven podcast. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to follow up?
Well, it's been my pleasure, Nancy. Thank you so much for extending the invitation. You can reach me at our firm. The firm is Toerek Law. The website is legalandcreative.com. That's where a lot of our written content is housed. I am on LinkedIn and Twitter, very actively so, and or on my podcast, The Innovative Agency, which you're going to join me on very soon. So I'm looking forward to that too. We can pick the conversation up there, but and I'm always happy to respond to emails as well. Sharon at legalandcreative.com. Might be faster to try me some of the other ways first, but always happy to answer questions and dialogue with folks. And thanks again for having me on, Nancy. This has been a really fun conversation.
Thank you, Sharon. And I appreciate it. I look forward to being on your podcast, The Innovative Agency. And until then, I want to thank you. And I want to thank everybody in PR Maven Nation for joining us today. Have a great day. That's it for this week's episode. I'd like to thank you for listening, and if you feel that you've gotten value out of today's conversation, consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or whatever app you're using to tune in. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should do so. I release a new episode each week, and subscribing will make sure you get an alert when there's a new episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation by going to prmaven.com/nation and clicking join. It's free, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you have an Alexa-enabled device, be sure to add the PR Maven Marketing Minute to your daily flash briefing menu. Thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.